So welcome everyone. So I'm doing this video on the Page of Pentacles. I'm in New Orleans right now. So I still wanted to do it though because I thought this was just a great location and I wanted to have a video here. So we'll start out by looking at the Waite-Smith card. So it looks like this. And there's a person looking at a pentacle. So this is someone that admires nature, that admires the physical world, the material world. And they're studying it, but they're also ready to invest in it. They're ready to put some energy into it. And if you notice on this card, and I'll maybe put a larger image of it up, but there is a field back there in the back and it's plowed. So a plowed field means that it's ready for you to plant on it. And there's a bigger image of it on the Pulp Tarot. So I like this card because it really shows that field. And what that means is that whatever you're planning to do, whatever you're interested in, whether it's a career, relationship, friendship, marriage, partnership, some sort of deal, this is a good time to really put your energy into that and to focus on that, because this is something that's going to be worthwhile and stable. It's something that's reliable. And I love on the Penumbra Tarot how they're actually planting into the soil. So this isn't necessarily about harvest, but this is about a new investment. Now there's a difference from this card and from some of the other cards when it comes to actually going forward with ideas and projects, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I love how on the Celestial Tarot right here it mentions spring, because this card really does relate to the springtime, and I think that's a perfect thing to talk about right now. But this card has the energy of Aries, and Aries of course is the first card in the zodiac cycle. So we've gone all the way through the cycle and we've come back to the beginning. And so now it's time to use our experience, our knowledge that we gathered on our journey to put back into whatever we're going to invest in or take time to be a part of now. So I want to talk about something real quick, because I know that there can be some confusion when we look at the signs that are associated with the court cards. Now, if we look at the signs here on this chart, we can see that the signs in this area are divided into 4. So you have 3 for each sign. If we go down here for the Princess of Pentacles, which is the Page of Disc, we can also see that it takes Aries, Taurus, and Gemini for the signs that it represents. I'm focusing right now on Aries, but you can look at any of those 3 for this card. Now, you'll see in the RWS system, when you look up information, a lot of times it will be associated with the earth signs. That's because, yeah, it does represent the earth signs as well. So when we call this card Earth of Earth, which I'll talk about here in just a moment, that's what we're talking about. It takes on all of the earth energies. So I can see how that can be confusing, but just keep in mind that when you're looking at these signs, you can focus on the ones you want and not to get really bogged down and caught up in the details of which sign you're looking at when you're trying to do a reading or trying to interpret the cards. But I think that these charts in general are great ones to reference when you're trying to figure out what's going on with the background energy of the card. This card is Earth of Earth. So of course, when we think about Earth, we think about things that are stable, they are reliable, grounded, dependable, trustworthy. So these are things that are worth the risk. Now, of course, you always want to look at all the other cards and also look at all the other circumstances that are going on surrounding your reading. But in general, this card might be pointing you in the direction to go ahead and take that step and to move forward with whatever you're doing. But again, the ultimate power and the ultimate decision relies on you. You never want to let tarot dictate what you're doing. But this card has a strong Aries vibe to it, a strong creative manifestation type of energy to it. You can see that on the Tabula Mundi, you have the horns, or the horns for the ram. And the ram is the representation for Aries. You also see that same thing on the Hermetic Tarot right here. And this card really places emphasis on that, because you are not just starting something new, you are picking up where you left off. And I think that the Tarot, Navigator's Tarot of the Mystic Sea, is perfect for that explanation, Because if we look at this card, we can see someone going from a fertile, lush environment to an environment that's still fertile, but it's barren and ready to be planted on. So they're crossing this barrier, they're crossing this threshold. So there's a transition taking place there that is a new adventure, but a good one. Now, one of the important things to remember here, and not a lot of people know this, and so I want to place emphasis on this and really get you to see this, because this is a key when it comes to the difference between the Thoth system and the Waite-Smith system. So the page is actually the last court card in the Thoth system. So the Page of Pentacles is actually the last card in the tarot. So what that means is you are actually completing your entire journey through the tarot, and now it's time to take your experiences and your knowledge and move forward or pass that down. So if we look at the Tree of Life, this falls into, of course, the bottom of the Tree of Life in the world of Malkuth, which is the world of Earth, but it's a reflection of the top of the Tree of Life, which is the world of Kether. And we'll talk about that again in just a moment. So this isn't just about passing down material wealth. And we talked about before in the Ten of Pentacles how success is not just based on your material gains, it's not just based on money, but it's also what you gather as far as experience and knowledge. And I love how on the Surrealist Tarot and on the Hermetic Tarot, you have that checkerboard field there again. And I think that is something that's stressed because they don't want people to fall into their programming of what it means to, like I said, be successful, what it means to accomplish something. What we've been taught is very different from what the tarot sees that as. And so that checkerboard pattern really means that our experiences of the shadowy things and of the more positive and bright things coming together make up the totality of everything that we experience here. And the knowledge that we gain from that journey, that leads us to successfully learning whatever it is we need to learn while we're here. The whole point of being here is not to gather material objects and obsess over those things, but to learn from the entire experience. And I know I keep saying that, but that is so vital. And it's one of the things that we learn just starting from birth all the way on, and unlearning that and changing that perspective. It can be difficult. And I think some people go their entire lives and they don't realize that. Or they realize it, but they just don't know how to shift that. And that's something that I struggle with. I'm not saying I'm perfect with that, but I think we all fall into that category just because we focus on this world and we don't really focus on the spirit sometimes, depending on who you are, as much as we could. But anyway, I don't want to ramble on about that. I want to move on here and talk about some other things. So if we focus on the kabbalistic Tree of Life and we look at the celestial, actually the tarot ceremonial magic, we can see that there's an interesting looking Tree of Life that she's holding up here as her pentacle. And that Tree of Life has all of the kabbalistic trees of life focused and connected at the world of Malkuth. So you have the Tree of Life for air, for fire, for earth and water, all connected at that point. So we're bringing in all of our earthly experience and we are grounding it into the world of Malkuth. And then we're using that energy to move forward in our lives. So the page is also a reflection of the ace, but it's also a reflection of the fool. And so what I mean by that is it is a reflection of the higher energy all the way down to the lower energy on the Tree of Life. So if we look at the Tree of Life here, you have the white circle up here, or Sephiroth, which is the area called Kether, which is for your pure essence or pure spirit. And then at the bottom, you see you have this mixture of color, which represents the physical world, so the earth tones. But they are a reflection of each other, and you always hear the saying, as above, so below, as within, as without. And what that means is, once we've completed that journey through the Tree of Life and through tarot, then we're a reflection of that pure essence. On the Thoth system, if we look at the Page of Pentacles there, I'll put an image of that up, you can see that she has this spear, and that spear has a crystal on it. That crystal represents Kether, which is that pure essence. And she's piercing that into the physical world. So we have that connection between those two extremes. So we have spirit bringing life also to the physical world, and the physical world becoming like spirit. That actual spirit is carbon based, and carbon is the element for life. So another thing to note here about the Page of Pentacles or the Princess of Disc is that she's pregnant. And so she's full of possibilities. And these are things that have grown from the experience of Earth. So she's full of Earth. So this is Earth within Earth. And this is about being fertile and being able to pass that seed of experience into a new generation. And so this is a very feminine energy, but it's also a very powerful energy of having completed a cycle and planting it. So this card is also related to the 10 of Pentacles, it's related to the Ace of Pentacles, and it's also related to the World card and the Fool. So it's all these cycles completed and being represented here. There's one more card I want to show you here from the Phantomwise Tarot. And this reminds me of the Fool card because you have a person and you have a dog here. And I love that they did this for the last card in the tarot because it's almost like you see the Fool after completing that journey. So let's talk about, actually, let's go ahead and move into the element that's associated with this card, which is Boreum. So Boreum is named after a scientist that won the Nobel Prize, Niels Bohr. And Niels Bohr had an excellent foundation set for him by his parents. They sent him to the best schools. They got him interested in science early on. And he really had a nurturing environment and something that was fertile for his parents to plant seeds into for him to be successful. And the knowledge that he gained, other scientists were able to build on that. He was able to study the quantum structure of atoms and to kind of put together what atoms look like. And he also had a lot of debates with Albert Einstein about the nature of particles, whether they are a particle or a wave, because depending on how we observe them, they can be both. And so that's something that we still are studying and trying to understand even now. But he has given us things to think about that have, like I said, allowed us to build on. He also invested a lot of his knowledge in his children, and his son also won a Nobel Prize. They're one of the few father-son combinations that have done that. And so you also see, again, going through that journey, planting that seed, passing that down, and then putting it into fertile soil and getting a new experience from that, whether it be from yourself and a new adventure that you're taking, or from your children or people that you know if you don't have kids. It could be anyone. So I was talking to someone not too long ago, a friend of mine named Fabi, who is a Reiki healer, Reiki master, and she was talking about the pineal gland and its location and how a lot of people think that it's located here and they focus here when they're meditating, when really it is more central right here. And so she told me to think about a cone of light. And I love on the Page of Pentacles from the Petra K Tarot how you can see this cone of light going towards the center of the head. And it made me think about that and think about how that's really important to tap into that as a part of our earthly experience, because just having knowledge, just having an interest in the physical world is really not enough. I think that meditating and using our intuition and tapping into what we feel internally and relying on and trusting our instincts is also something that is really vital. And one of the people that did that was the next guy that I want to talk about here, which is Otto Lowy. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I think it is Lowy. But he was a scientist who was studying nerve cells or nerve tissue. And we often thought that they were stimulated just by electrical impulses. But he also realized and demonstrated that they were also stimulated by what we call neurotransmitters, which are chemical in nature. And so they can be a chemical component to nerve impulses as well. And the way that he did that, and the reason why I'm bringing it up, is because he tapped into his dream state. During a dream, he was able to come up with the experiment that he would use to prove this. And that experiment was something that he couldn't remember the next day. So that next day, he was really struggling to remember the details of the experiment. So he goes to sleep that same night or the next night, and he has the same exact dream. And so he wakes up that next day and he writes down the experiment, and he writes about how he was able to successfully carry out this experiment because of that. That happened with other scientists as well. I talked about in my last video what happened with Dmitry Mendeleev, how he had a dream about the periodic table and he was able to complete parts of it by going into his dream state. And then also with Nikola Tesla, he had many inventions that he pulled from his dream states, and you can read about that as well. But I thought that those were really important to mention as we live in a world that's constantly changing, and there's all kinds of different things going on in our lives, all kinds of things that are changing the way we see life. And I think that it's important to not just focus on our intellect when we're looking at the physical world, as this card does suggest, but it also suggests the spiritual side of that, the spiritual component of that. And like I said, I think that this card from the Petra K really made me think about that aspect of it as well. And definitely right now is a time to place emphasis on that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of noisy. It's raining really hard right now. I don't know if you can see it through that window in the back. It's a little bit blown out, but I don't know if you can hear that, but that's what that is. And as soon as it stops raining, I'll go back out and continue touring the city. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Will. This is Atypical Tarot, and I'll see you next time.